Hi, this is Dave Litton and welcome to my Learn PRINCE2 Configuration Management in 27 minutes flat. First off, I want to explain that the word configuration management sounds awfully difficult, but really in terms of PRINCE2 and typical projects, what we're really concerned about here is versioning or version control. And that's really all configuration management is. It's very closely aligned to change control for obvious reasons. So, it's basically version control, and it sets out the procedures for managing change, version control, and how the products will be protected. You'll find this as part of the PRINCE2 change theme. And configuration management covers both management and specialist products of a project. Now, the system for how you manage change control normally forms part of the configuration management system, as I'll show you. So just before we get into configuration management in detail, let's remind ourselves that the strategy for implementing change management within a PRINCE2 project is to decide first of all how changes will be submitted, what the process is to be used for evaluating change requests, who makes decisions on change control, and the various levels of authority for change approval. So first up, configuration management strategy is a key document that needs to be created first, and it explains exactly how configuration management will be applied to a particular project. Now, the configuration management strategy document itself is created by the project manager, and how changes are to be managed forms part of the configuration management strategy itself. So you can see already that change management and configuration management are two closely related aspects of any project. Now, the configuration management strategy document is created during the initiation stage and forms part of the project initiation documentation, and as such may be updated at the end of each stage. Now, configuration management will continue to be used on the project's end product during its operational life, which is why configuration management is normally carried out centrally within an organisation, such as by project support or a project office, if that makes good sense. Remember, once the products are in their operational life, they'll need to be supported, they may have changes requested during their operational life, or they may be upgraded. In other words, configuration management is used from the very start or birth of a product right up until it is no longer needed by the organisation. So what I want to do to start with is to bring home to you how the configuration management functions actually help. And I'm talking here about the parent-child relationship. Imagine that you have a particular product and you want to establish whether it's part of your particular project. What about trying to establish the latest or correct version? Should you be using a particular version of a product? And if so, which one? If you know that a product is being worked upon, would you like to know who's doing it and where it is being built? And also, if it has already been built, where is it located or installed, if you will? What about version and change history? Did I save this as version 10.2? And if so, why was it updated from version 10.1? And getting them wrong could have catastrophic implications for your project. Change impacts and who to ask. If I modify the widget, what other products are affected and who should I ask? Product sourcing. Which supplier originally supplied this broken cog and what model number was it? If you have a part that needs replacing, configuration management can tell you exactly where you sourced it from and the specification. Change control. Sue just saw the team modifying a product. Why is it being changed and has that change been approved yet? You see, one of the jobs of configuration management is to protect products and only to make changes once the appropriate authority has agreed. So let's discuss now the 5-step configuration management fix. The important thing you need to ask during the initiation stage of your PRINCE2 project is how do you adapt the various configuration management aspects to suit your project? Keep it simple. In fact, I'd go further and say you should only configuration manage what you may change. These are questions that only you can answer, as each project is unique. Let's then look at each of these 5 steps in a very general way. The first step is called planning, and it's where the level of configuration management control that is needed by the project is first thought about and how such level of planning is to be achieved. The next step is identification. This is where you specify and identify all of your project's products. Don't forget this is management products as well as specialist products, and establish an appropriate coding system to uniquely identify each product and any variants of it. If you're building a house, you may have various door handles, and it's highly likely that the door handle for your bathroom would be different to the door handle on your front door. Control, the ability to record, monitor and report product status progress. And in setting up an appropriate control environment, you need a system to establish authorized baselines. A baseline is something which management or an appropriate level of authority has agreed that it's the latest version, and a change control system for managing change in a controlled manner. You also, of course, need a secure environment for aspects such as access control and backups, as I've just suggested. You need a system to file and retain authorized master copies, and you need to be able to distribute them via this system and to record copy holders, and that when they finish with it, it should be returned. And you don't want old versions circulating in an uncontrolled manner within your project or organization. Step 4 is status accounting. There's that word again. Don't be put off by this. It's merely the reporting of all current and historical data for each product via a product status account. This is a report. Get used to that. It's simply a report. It would certainly be used at the project end, at the end of each stage, and for example, when examining issues and risks during a stage or at key milestone points. Partway through the stage, as an example, you may be giving an important customer demonstration of an early prototype. You'd want to make sure that that prototype used the latest version of all of the products within it. And finally, I want to talk about verification and audit. This compares the actual status of the real products against what their configuration records say. You want to make sure that both are harmonized together, and that configuration management is also being carried out as per the configuration management strategy document. So those are the 5 steps. Let's now bring them to life by describing what actually happens within a typical PRINCE2 project. Let me first of all touch on status accounting as a general statement. This helps check the actual progress during a stage, as I described in the previous slide, as well as at the end of the stage to make sure that all the products have been completed. So if status accounting is the technique, what is it we actually use within PRINCE2? Well, the answer is that we call it a status account, and it's a report. It's a snapshot of a set of products at a particular point in time describing what state they are in. Both management and specialist products need to be under change control and hence configuration management. If in this particular stage you as the project manager have been given out work packages of software products, the last thing you want to do is to request an end stage assessment only to find that some of the products have not yet been fully signed off. How do we go about doing this? Well, if a status account is one particular product within configuration management, another one is a configuration item record. I'll show you what sort of information that has in it. You'd have one of these for each product. Other aspects you need to be aware of, because change control is so closely related to configuration management, are formal issues. You will have the issue register where each issue is placed upon it, and an issue report is created in parallel. And these are used for changes such as request for change and off specifications. But if you remember the daily log that was created pre-project in the starting up a project process, you would continue to use the daily log to capture and to manage any informal issues. So as I've said here, your configuration management system needs to cover both management products and specialist products. Let's quickly look at the management products. These, of course, are baselined once they've been approved, and changes can only be implemented after the correct authority, normally the project board, has approved such changes. Typical products that you'll find in Appendix A of your PRINCE2 manual would be the benefits review plan, business case, all of the plans, project plan, stage plan and team plans, product descriptions, one for each product, the project brief, and the project product description, which forms part of the project brief. As you give out work packages, these would want to be under configuration management control, as well as the 4 strategies I've talked about within the project initiation documentation. We'll look next at the configuration management strategy document itself. Here's the structure, starting off with a brief introduction which lays down the purpose, objectives and scope of this particular project, and it identifies who is responsible for this strategy. Next up is the configuration management procedure itself. If you have any standard procedures, then just reference them here, don't recreate them. But this particular section should cover or reference aspects such as how you approach planning, identification of products. You may have certain coding schemas that need to be used. What about booking in and booking out? There may be some processes used for actually entering products into the system. What controls will you have in place and what security? What about handover procedures of products once they've been authorised and approved and are ready for their operational life? How are you going to carry out status accounting, and how are you going to do verification and audit? Issue and change control procedure. Here's where you get your opportunity to lay down exactly how issues and change control will take place. Again, if this is written down elsewhere, then you would merely reference such procedures in this document. Still on the configuration management strategy document, any particular tools or techniques. For example, you may well have a database that is already set up for all of your organisational assets, as they're called, to do with the products that your organisation uses or creates, and the project would naturally want to hook into such database and use it. Records. This defines the composition and format of the issue register and configuration item records. You could argue here that that's self-explanatory, in which case this particular section should be quite brief. Now, it's just worth reminding ourselves once again that you only need to reference any standard tools, records or reports. But when it comes to reporting here, we're talking about the composition and format of standard reports within PRINCE2, the issue report, the product status account, their purpose and timing, and who should receive them. Here this would probably be unique for each particular project, including reviewing the performance of the procedures. Timing of configuration management and issue change control activities. This will lay down when any formal activities are to be undertaken. I mean, let's face it, an issue is something which normally arises as something that you weren't planning for. So it would be pretty difficult to actually say when you intend to do this. But configuration audits would be an example here of something that you would want to plan for. Normally at the end of every stage, and certainly at the end of the project, although, as I mentioned earlier, there may be some key milestone points during a stage where it would make sense to hold configuration audits. Roles and responsibilities. Who will be responsible for specific procedures? This will describe also whether you're going to have a change authority rather than just the project board, and or a change budget to be used to pay for any changes. It's highly likely that this section would merely state that project support will be responsible for managing configuration management on behalf of the project, although it might be a central project office if that's the way your organisation has set this up. Scales for priority and severity. This is used for prioritising requests for changes and off specifications and the management levels needed for decision making on the various levels of severity. You may recall that in the PRINCE2 manual there are some suggested scales used for priority and severity. Severity might simply be a numbered scheme, whereas priority you might use Moscow for must have, should have, could have, or won't have for now. Now let's move on to the configuration item record. So we've covered the configuration management strategy, one of the various documents within the bid, and the fact that it's created in the initiation stage. What we'd also do at that same time is to set up a configuration item record, one for each product. Don't forget, you'd probably want these for all management products as well as specialist products. So what's the structure of this particular record? If you've got 100 products, you'll have this 100 times. First of all, the project identifier, the item identifier, and the current version, typically some agreed numeric or alphanumeric scheme. The item title, a clear description, Date of the last status change, this is the last time an item was changed. This would be important so that you could determine what the latest version was and when the last change was implemented. The owner of each product. This will normally be a person or a group who will own the product after handover. Although frankly, while the product is being created, the owner might be a third party or a particular development group within your organisation, in which case you may wish to mention that here as well as who would look after it once it has entered its operational life. Location. If the product is being made, where is it being made? If the product has been made and is complete, where is it being stored? Remember, a product may also be implemented directly on site. Take, for example, a cabling loom within a building. This wouldn't be stored anywhere, although you may keep spares. It would actually be implemented within the cable duct itself. Copy holders, most appropriate for software or documentation types of products. The name of the person who has a copy. Remember, having loose old versions of copies circulate in your organisation could be dangerous, particularly if someone carries out several months of development on an out-of-date specification document, just as an example. The item type. The item may be a component of a product or products or a set of products, which is called a release. You're probably familiar with this through software, but other types of items, apart from documents, might be software or hardware or even door handles, going back to my previous example. Item attributes. We'll actually use this for the product status account, which we'll be mentioning shortly. This is defined in the configuration management strategy, which you've just seen, and it's used to identify a subset of products when creating a product status account. The attribute might be a product type, a type of product, like a door handle, a product destination where it's due to go or to be installed, or within a particular PRINCE2 management stage. Continuing with the configuration item record, the management stage when the product will be developed, and the users, normally a group or a person who will use the product. It may be your customer, or it may be an internal group, particularly if the product happens to be a piece of test software that will be used to test later products within the project. The current status, as defined in the configuration management strategy. For example, you might use the terms pending, under development, in review, approved, or operational. Whatever terms you use, make sure that they're consistent throughout your project and organisation, if at all possible. The product state. Now, people often get confused about these two elements because they sound the same, but you'll need to refer to PRINCE2's product-based planning technique if you want to get more information on this. The example that I've given before, if you're moving a business and you pack up particular items of equipment in your current building, eventually to be installed in the new building, you could then use packed system, move system, installed system, and so on. It will be the same product, but you may need to represent within your plan various states, in this case to do with its transfer from one site to being installed in a new site. Variants, for example, colours or language variants. For example, your PC keyboard. The producer and the date allocated. This is the person, team or organisation that is creating, or if the product is being bought in from a third party, who is procuring the item. The source, is it being derived or procured from a third party, or are you building it in-house, and so on. Its relation with other items. Items affected if this item was changed and vice versa. You may be using some software here which actually shows the relationships between one product and another. Cross-references. This points to any issues or risks that cause changes or impacts in some way to this particular product. Any other documentation that's relevant. It may, for example, be specification documents, its product description, and so on. Now I want to cover the product status account. Please be aware this is a report. So what have we learned so far? We have the configuration management strategy, which lays down how you will apply configuration management to this project. We've looked at the configuration item record, one for each product, that uniquely explains the elements and characteristics of that particular product. And the final piece is this report, normally requested by a project manager. It may be requested by project assurance or any other appropriate stakeholder. Now, the information you might ask for could vary wildly, so it uses the product attribute field, which I've touched on, to define this. It might be for the entire project, particularly if you're asking for one at the end of the project or at the end of a stage, or you might want to filter it via supplier, showing the particular products a given supplier is providing to your project, or it might be a product type. It could be anything, in much the same way that you'd filter information within a spreadsheet, if you will. The date this particular report was produced, not the product. Within the scope of this report, you may include the following types of information. The highlighted ones here, I would think you'd always want the product ID and title, version and status. The others are optional. It depends on what you want to include. I'd like to now finish off by looking at configuration management as it may apply to the processes within PRINCE2. It's not used within starting up a project or directing a project, only the remaining 5, as I will briefly now go through. Starting with prepare the configuration management strategy. That's part of the initiating a project process, and that's where this document is created. The project manager will liaise with project support to discuss how the project will use the existing configuration management system, as that is most likely to be the case. Setting up the project controls also within the initiating a project process, and this takes information from the project plan and adds the project filing structure to the configuration management strategy. So you can see throughout the initiating a project process, this strategy is gradually being updated. Your configuration management system may already have these facilities in place. Authorize work packages. This is where the project manager gives out the work packages within controlling a stage. And the project manager or project support would update each configuration item record to show under development, as that is the status that is about to occur. Ensure the work package contains information regarding how version control will work for the developer of each product, and obtaining copies of products or product descriptions. Eventually, submission of the product to project support or someone else, and the passing of product status information. Don't forget that authorizing work packages may be given to a third party, and not only within the configuration management strategy will you lay down how you're going to integrate with their system, which may be different to yours in configuration management, but also making clear those who are creating the product for you know exactly what is expected under the general auspices of configuration management. Review work package status. This is done by the project manager and uses the checkpoint reports from the team to actually capture what's actually happened and updating the status of products in each configuration item record. Again, normally done by project support. However, it is the project manager that actually reviews the work package status. Capture and examine issues and risks. During a stage, should any of these take place, the project manager will be responsible for this, but project support could receive and document all issues as well as maintain the issue register. Review the stage status. This is the project manager looking at how far we've got within the stage, what's been done and what remains. And here the project manager along with project support would check the configuration item records to ensure that all the products have the status of completed or authorized thus far. The project manager may at this point request a status account, the report if you remember, to find out exactly the true status. And it may well be during the stage that some of the products are handed over to be used operationally by the customer or user. Take corrective action is where the project manager needs to do just that because of differences between the planned information, actual and forecasts. And here project support would be involved in making any products or their copies available, add new copies given out to configuration item records, or update them for any status changes. Escalate issues or risks. This is the project manager bringing this to the attention of the project board, and in this case the project support would update the configuration item record status and add links for the related issue. Receive completed work package. This is the project manager again receiving that from the specialist team in managing product delivery. Project support would update the configuration item record to a status of completed. The product is now baselined if this has not already occurred. Execute a work package is the specialist team creating the products, and here via the checkpoint reports, and here the specialist team would advise project support to update configuration item records of each product. Deliver a work package. This is the other part of the handshake with receive completed work package. This is the team saying we finished. This is the project manager acknowledging it. Here the project support to handle the return of completed products if that's appropriate, and to assist project assurance in confirming customer and or user acceptance of each product. Going on to managing a stage boundary. Here the project manager would use the activity report stage end, obviously to create the end stage report. Project support, along with assistance of project assurance, would confirm that the configuration item record for each of the products is the same as the actual status of the products by carrying out a configuration audit. Also check that version numbers are correct and updated. Produce an exception plan. Here, this is the response by the project manager to request from the project board to create an exception plan, which would mean that new or modified products would need to be created, in which case project support will provide a product status account of products to be replaced or incomplete. New configuration item records will be created or updated if needed. Prepare planned closure and hand over the products. This is obviously part of closing a project, and here configuration item records are checked for their completeness and used as an input to the product status account, confirming from the customer's configuration management records that all of the products have been approved. But also, the configuration management strategy should state how the products will be handed over to support and operational individuals or groups. You would want to hold a configuration audit to check that all products are approved and that each complies with the status as shown in their individual configuration item records. And let's now talk about the product-based planning technique within PRINCE2. It's used when you create the project plans, stage plans and team plans. A product description and a configuration item record for each product within those are created directly the need for the product is recognised, normally when agreeing the relevant plan where such a product has been identified. Remember, the configuration item record will follow that product right the way through its full project and operational life. Also, as each stage plan is created, new or modified product descriptions and their new or updated configuration item records will be created. Each configuration item record is created with reference to the method and processes as originally laid out in the configuration management strategy. Well, that's it, my friend. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found my video useful. If you want to pass your PRINCE2 Foundation and Practitioner exam, you really should check out my APMG licensed PRINCE2 Primer at www.prince2primer.com. My name's Dave Litton, and I hope you found this short video useful.